Good morning, students. So, today is a very special day. Let me start with this piece of news I want to share with you that KSG is celebrating Crystal Jubilee. On this day, 17th April 2008, KSG started its journey, and we are completing 15 years today. So that's a very, that's an occasion for us to feel pride, to have pride, and to feel privileged to have served so many people. And we are building this nation with togetherness, and our commitment to the nation is high as we derive our inspiration from the preamble of the Constitution. And as you know all, that the people from different caste and creed and religion and region all have we have served all such students. And so the preamble of the Constitution that we, the people of India, that have solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure all its citizens. We all need to remember this preamble, and especially for you as future officers, who are going to be part of the steel frame of the country. So, sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic, justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, which is very, very important part, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. So that's something that we discuss, that we have seen in the preamble, and keeping that on mind, we have undertaken this journey, and 15 years is a matter of pride for us. So the students now, a very good morning. You have started joining, and in the last class, you all remember we started about reading comprehension, and I told you the factual details of this in the CSAT exam, the syllabus part, and the present trend of the questions, right? And as I told you that UPSC is more interested in logical questions. Thank you so much for your wishes for KSG. So logical questions are mostly there. I told you the weightage that in the paper you will come across some 70 to 80% question, of this nature, and then they ask you crux based questions, and some 20 to 30% of the questions are crux based. Crux means the main idea based. Whenever you solve any logical questions, there is a whole family of logical questions that I told you on the day one, if you remember. Right, during in this session plan, I showed you the different type of questions, logical questions: conclusion, assumption, inference, corollary, implication. Even for all these questions, to develop a good understanding for all these questions, you need to understand what by and large the passage is saying. What is the main idea or the crux of the passage? So the crux, while reading the passage, your ability to understand the main point the author is trying to establish plays a very important role, not only for the crux based questions, but it also is important for logical questions. For example, when I will be discussing with you the question of corollary, it will be a kind of inference based on the main point is made by the author. So the ability to understand the main point becomes very important. Similarly, when we will discuss assumption question, again that will depend on your ability to understand the main point made by the author. So whether be it assumption or corollary or even conclusion, they all are connected to the crux point or the main point that author is trying to establish. That is the reason that is the reason I started with you in the last class that each of you must have no problem in terms of identifying the main point of the para in case it is mentioned in the para. If mentioned, nobody should miss it out. And to actually hone this skill, to make you prepare on this one, to prepare you on this one, we have I gave you this sheet of basic reading skill. And in the first class, all these questions of basic reading skills were discussed. So there were some tools discussed in the last class a couple of days ago when we started. Uh, Topic sentence was the first thing we discussed, topic or focus sentence. So if the author is going to write his main point, generally, he writes it in a sentence, and this sentence is called a topic or a focus sentence. Right, so we solve these 4 paragraphs for topic sentence, then we solve the question based on theme. Again, theme means that how to identify the main idea. And I discussed with you that to identify the main point, I told you the tricks. The trick and technique. So if you remember, can anybody write what is the name of that trick that I discussed with you? 2 tricks I discussed with you. I'm waiting for your answer. Yes. So one was orange and juice analogy, and the second was about the reverse approach. Yes, I just came across your message. I don't know where it was stuck up. Uh, yes, you deserve mithai, but then how to send it? Anyway, so I would suggest you that whenever you visit any of our centers, right, do let them know that you are part of KSG, and obviously then you can enjoy the delicacies. All right, so orange juice and reverse approach, very good. So some of the students, but that reverse approach is also from bottom to top. So these 2 things, right? And we have done, I think, all the theme or based questions, main idea based questions. And just to carry forward, on that day we discussed the title, right? So title was where I gave you the 4 passages and you chose the suitable title. The reverse approach I use about the orange and juice analysis, 2 points were discussed that you should be careful of. About the reverse approach, the point was discussed that when you get confused between 2 close options, and in that case you can think of the para on the basis of the option. Like after reading the para, you are looking for the option, and in case you confuse with between two options, then you should go in the reverse direction and can actually look at the option and then imagine that what kind of projection it gives to a para. Just forget the given para and then compare with the given para, the projected one and the given one. So this way you will get the idea. I think I have discussed these 4 passages also. There is no doubt related to that. We have completed this point. right? Kids are future, I told you on that day, will be incorrect. If it is the title, then the para should just revolve around that kids are future, right? But this paragraph is discussing, thank you so much for your lovely words. Thank you so much. Uh, this is so this is like kids are future. I told you on that day that it cannot be the title just because if the title is like this, then the paragraph should only talk about that how kids are playing, how they are important for future, for society, for country. However, this paragraph addresses the parents and tells them about a baffling fact about the children, that though the children are small, yet they are observant. So this you can apply, and passage number 2 was quite easy. I think all the 4 passages we have completed, right? Is there anyone who is doubtful about this? Now, the summary test. Again, the summary is the main point. You know that the given paragraph may be, an extended version, and if you are asked to find out an option which contain its main point, that can be called as a summary, right? The summary is like in a nutshell when you try to represent the whole paragraph. So, of course, in the summary, the main point should not, only the main point should be given a place. The extended part, the secondary part, or the explanation part, the example part may not be given a place. And orange and juice analysis you have. So let's have a look at this first passage. This passage talks about nationalism, right? Nationalism is not to be confused with patriotism. So author has mentioned his topic here. The difference between the two is going to be discussed here. Both words are normally used in so vague means not clear, vague a way that any definition is liable to be challenged, but one must draw a distinction between them. Since two different and even opposing ideas are involved. Two different and even opposing ideas are involved in both nationalism and patriotism. Then the author has taken up patriotism first. And he gives the details. By patriotism, I mean devotion to a particular place and a particular way of life, which one believes to be the best in the world, but has no wish to force on other people. Right? This is a very important part. He does not impose it on others. Then patriotism is of its nature defensive, both militarily and culturally. Nationalism, on the other hand, is inseparable from the desire for power. And the abiding purpose of every nationalist is to secure more power and more prestige, not for himself but for the nation or other unit in which he has chosen to sink his own individuality. So this paragraph, what is the structure of the paragraph? Students, you know that I have discussed all along, in the first class also I emphasized on this, that when you read a paragraph, reading comprehension should not be mistakenly believed as knowing all the words or reading very fast. They are different things. I mean, they may give you a kind of an upper hand, an upper edge. However, reading is about identifying the very structure so that you understand what the author wants to convey. Right? The author, like his body language and his non-verbal parts are not there. Only the words are there. So the punctuational marks, some of the words which play a key role, they become very important. And hence the structure of the passage should be noticed. So in this passage we find that it's in comparison format. I told you on the other day, in the first class, that there are different standard structured form we come across. One of them is that comparison format. When the author compares two things, he highlights their similarities or their contradictions. Similarly, I told you that there are a problem and solution format, based structure, which is very common in CSAT paper. And then we have cause and effect, where both elements are present. Sometimes author writes an idea, his main thought, and then he goes for explanation part and then example part. So this is another structure. So those commonly used structures that I discussed with you on the day one, you notice here that it is in comparison format, and nationalism versus patriotism it talks about. Now, the best option you are supposed to choose, and since it's a crux based question, so you can apply orange and juice analogy. So, let's have a look at the first A option. It says nationalism and patriotism differ. That's correct, they differ. Patriotism is defensive, whereas nationalism is offensive, and the emotion behind both ideas are the same. Now, this part is incorrect, that both ideas are same, because author has written since two different and even opposing ideas are involved. So you notice that in option A distortion has been done. Distortion of what? Distortion of the given fact in the para. So we need to be watchful of all distortions and discrepancies, what the author has said in the para, what the examiner is writing in the option. It is one basic nature or trait of wrong options, to distort the given data. So A cannot be the answer. If you look at B option, it says nationalism and patriotism differ. Patriotism demands the individual to be submissive. Nationalism demands a dominant attitude. About nationalism, it is given that dominant attitude, that's fine. But about the individual, it is given to be submissive. And what the author has said about patriotism, patriotism demands, look here, patriotism is of its nature defensive. Here the nature of patriotism is mentioned as defensive, and here the author, examiner is saying the patriotism demands the individual to be submissive. You know, submissive and defensive are two different personality traits. A person who is submissive is just ready to submit, ready to give in, right? In terms of in choice of a flight or fight, he will go for flight, right? So he lacks assertiveness, he lacks the self-confidence. Whereas a defensive person, his basic tendency is not to attack others, However, in case of an attack on himself, he may be very much capable of, safeguarding his own interest. So you find that defensive is not same as submissive, right? A defensive person, his natural instinct is not to attack, but however, he has the confidence and composure. So this B option is wrong, okay? Option C and D we are left with, and two students have written the answer, one as D, the other one as C. Look at the option D. Nationalism and patriotism differ. Patriotism demands people to feel strongly about the country. Nationalism demands a fanatical devotion. Now the word is fanatical devotion. A fanatic is an extreme word. A fanatical person cannot, get along with others. वो जैसे होता है ना, हिंदी में एक कहावत है, आई डोंट नो हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट, कि एक तलवार में दो म्यान नहीं एक म्यान में दो तलवार नहीं रह सकती, राइट? सो यू कैनॉट, पर्सन हु इज फैनेटिक, ही कैनॉट गेट अलोंग विद द पीपल हु हैव different ideologies or different belief system than his own. So this is not given. So there is a distortion in D as well. Option C we are left with, and let's see that whether it is on the track or not. Nationalism and patriotism differ, that's correct. Patriotism is defensive, yes, it is given there. And nationalism is power centric, yes, it is given. On the other hand, is inseparable from the desire for power. So nationalism ke liye power centric it is. This is due to the difference in the underlying emotions and motives. Yes, it is given here, since two different and even opposing ideas are involved. So C is the correct answer. Now, So folks, this is we are doing main idea, how to identify the main idea. That is our prime objective, and once it is done, we will go for logical question where this ability to identify the main idea will play a pivotal role, right? So passage number 2 is a narrative writing. If you remember on the day one, I discuss all the tools that with you, and then in the BRS part, basic reading skill tools, and we discuss writing style, 4 types of writing style I told you, right? And persuasive. I'm only writing the initials because we have already discussed the details of all these. Descriptive, expository, and narrative. These 4 writing styles, the catchwords and the details were shared on the day one. Now then I discuss with you about the different structure of the passage, right? Common examples we discuss, and we discuss about the topic sentence or a focus sentence, the sentence that holds the author's main idea. We discuss about the transition of idea. As a reader, you must notice what are the transitions taking place in a paragraph. When author switches from one subtopic to another subtopic, that's called a transition. And also when author going on with a certain intensity and suddenly he goes to a hyper case, to higher intensity or to a lower one, that's also called a transition. For example, if the author is telling the different problems Indian economy is facing, so he writes that there are different problems X, Y, Z, but above all, or however, the most serious one is. So with these phrases, you get to know that the one that he's going to now talk about is the most serious one, the biggest one. So this superlative degree or this nature when you come across where author emphasize on something, that's also a transition. So transition could be like this, that author is discussing and suddenly he goes to a higher degree, that's also a transition. And of course, when he switches from one subtopic to entirely different subtopic, for example, from cause to effect or problem to solution, that's a clear-cut transition. So at times author writes a transition sentence, and a transition sentence is the sentence that tells you about what is upcoming. ये discuss कर लिए थे आपसे on the day one. And then there is a test based on the same. So let's first finish this this exercise of summary. So second paragraph is on your screen, and this paragraph is slightly challenging. You first of all look at the writing style of this. It's not persuasive. Author is just narrating a certain instance, and he does not give you takeaway points on this one. Because whenever the author writes in persuasive style or in a in an expository style, the takeaway message is very, very clear. कभी-कभी narrative में, when the author is just going into the details of something, the takeaway points for readers are not so sharp and noticeable. So you are going to face this problem in passage number 2. I give you 2 minutes to solve passage number 2. The options A, B, C, D you are supposed to choose. However, you may come across an issue of vocab here. So all such students who face more problem of this nature, let me tell all of you in general and to such students in particular that I will share with you 4 PDF files comprising of some 230 of 240 words that have been regularly used in reading comprehension of CSAT paper. So such words that are commonly used there, everybody must know them. They are the critical vocab, right? And so words like impending, essential, indispensable, acquittal, decimate, and all such words which are part and parcel of day-to-day life, or always there in the newspaper, in the media, and you must be aware of such words, right? The CSAT does not demand a very high end of vocab asked in other exams such as GMAT or GRE. However, a graduate must know such words, right, that are repeatedly used in the newspapers and in the media. So this the PDF file that will be shared with you, soon, that you are all supposed to go through and write down the meaning of such words which that you do not know, so that you do not face this problem. Now, this paragraph, some students have given the answer. Okay. Okay, Mir, I will take up your question. First of all, let's discuss the answer of this paragraph. Along with this, or some other para, I will again discuss this analogy, orange and juice analogy, that you can apply to evaluate the options, and the reverse approach. So this is a narrative. The author is only talking about what he felt about a certain language when it started. So he dismissed it at the very beginning, and he says that I had dismissed them as passing fads. Passing fads are something like that is something that is temporarily in fashion, in vogue, but it's not going to stay there for a long time. That's what he believed about this language. However, he went somewhere, came back, and he found the complete change. Like whatever he earlier thought, it was just opposite to that. People have embraced this language, and now they were speaking it like a native speaker, and so much so that they were able to even translate their own idioms into this language. So author says they had become native speakers. Today this language pervades both public and private sectors. Pervade is one such common word, which means spread, right? Spread. And another word that you come across for spread is disseminate, dissemination of data, like spread of data, and pervade. And much of the working population is fluent in it. And we may joke about the cliched absurdity of mission statements. You all know cliche. You must know cliche, C-L-I-C-H-E, cliche. Cliche are those words and phrases that are overly used, hence they actually lose out their value or their actual sense and actual meaning. They lack the weightage. So because of the overly use, for example, like you see that in marketing, in politics, there are certain words and phrases overly used by almost all of the people, and that's the reason we do not believe in those words. For example, like if a politician is saying that we are working hard to actually alleviate poverty, so we have been listening to this for a long time. So this has become almost a cliche, right? Similarly, when you speak to the marketing people, they also use a lot of cliche. Biswajit, this, okay, fine, I'll zoom it, but you all have it on your portal as well. So I will suggest you that in case you have any issues, you can also have a look at that. I suppose this is visible now. So author talks about this particular thing. Now, when we go to the option evaluation, this orange and juice analogy, Meera, I'm going to use first, where whenever you want juice from your orange, you want the main content. You do not want peel or seed or pulp. They are also part of the orange. However, you want juice, that is the main content. Similarly, in the passage, the author might have mentioned different things, different points, while making his main point. And when you are supposed to find out the main point, you are not supposed to actually choose an option that merely talks about those secondary points, right? So that is the first analogy, similarity that you can establish. Here, when you look at option, so that is the first thing. Second analogy related point is, I tell you both so that we can connect with the passage, with the options evaluation. Second analogy point is, takeaway point is that anything that is not, when you want juice from the orange, you want it to come from the source, the orange itself. You do not want any foreign material in it. For example, when you buy it in the market, you are watchful that the juice wala should not add some water or some sugary syrup into it. Original juice you want from, that should come from the source itself, the fruit itself. Same goes here, that in the paragraph, whatever the author has discussed, and in the option, if the author has written, examiner has added something from his own side, not said by the author in the para, then that option is not supposed to be chosen. No matter how closely entwined it is, how logically connected it is with the point, you may be aware of that connection. However, if it is not coming from the passage, it should not be chosen. So these are the two takeaway points, right? So if you look at option D, I go to D first because it has very visible error. You see, it says the changes sweeping the world are fast as revealed with the example of mission statements. Now, hang on, this phrase, the changes sweeping the world, the paragraph is not talking about the changes sweeping the world. It is only talking about one change, and that is related to the language, the author's earlier observation, and when he came back he found that it was totally upside down. And so D is something not given in the paragraph, so not coming from the orange, it is some addition from outside. Okay, and now let's go for C option. It says mission statements and standardized phone greetings were initiated so as to make people feel comfortable. So as to make people, then this part is telling you what was the purpose, but nowhere in the paragraph the author has told that what was the purpose of behind this initiative, right? So C is again not given in the passage. It is again some source of information not given in the para. Partha, not all types of passages, only in, can anybody answer to this question that Partha has asked, that Partha has said that can we apply orange and juice analogy in all types of passages, in all types of questions? Which kind of question I told you on the day one there where you can apply these two tricks? I am waiting for your reply. Biswajit or any other student, if you can answer, which kind of question where we can apply orange and juice analogy? I am talking about question because the passage does not matter here. We deal with the questions. Alright, so C is out. B option, the language of mission statements and standardized phone greetings has spread fast. That's true, it has spread fast. Author has said that it pervades the public and private all. People are now making their additions to the language. Now hang on. People are now making their additions to the language. This is given in the summary, as a summary of the para. However, in paragraph, nowhere any whiff of information suggesting this is given. People are now making their additions to the language. No. Making additions to the language is speaking it like a native speaker. Author has said they had become native speakers. Author has said that they can, this language pervades both public and private. And now much of the working population is fluent in it. So I am showing you the source of information for this option, but you find it that it is not given anywhere. Not given anywhere. Only they speak like a native speaker, they are fluent in it. The likes of my colleagues no longer thought of this new tongue as an alien one. Now no longer this language is an alien to them, into which they translated thoughts originally composed in a more familiar idiom, and they had become native speaker and all that. You all are comfortable in English or in some other language. You may be fluent in it, you may speak it like a native speaker. However, what is the addition you have made to the language? Just imagine Bangla language. So in Bangla, what is your addition? You have not. Addition is something, this part, that people are now making their additions to the language in option B is just an exaggeration. It's again a distortion of the given data. So exaggerations or undermining something that author has not said should be noticed. It's a discrepancy, hence B is also not correct. Just like C and just like D, we are left with option A. Let me see how many students gave this answer correctly. So Mir, have you understood this juice analogy? And my question was that which kind of questions and where we can use orange and juice analogy. And Debasmita has correctly answered that crux based questions. So Parth, you remember, and others, everyone remember that only in the type of crux type of questions we can use orange and juice analogy. It means that it is exclusively for this. What are the different type of crux based questions asked in CSAT paper? Questions such as what is the message? If you go back and see your notes, critical message of the passage, key idea of the passage, what is the basic purpose of the author, what is the summary, what is the theme, or maybe what is the title of this paragraph. All these questions are crux based, where you need the central part, the very gist or essence of the paragraph as an answer, right? Logical questions may, for example, different type of questions there, but you may not apply orange and juice analogy. So I suppose that is clear to everyone. Yeah, Spendan Roy also correctly answered. Okay. Biswajit, you say if you talk, you miss it in the last class, but I suppose you were present in the last class, but maybe some other person, your namesake maybe. All right, so option A is the correct answer. We are left with passage number 3. So folks, I need to just pace up a bit more, and you all, by now, everybody has understood what is the orange juice analogy and where is to be used. Now, I'm waiting for your answer for passage number 3. Each of you must choose the correct answer. And you all are supposed to solve single para based one question in 2 minutes. I have already shared this important piece of information with you. Single para based one question should not take more than 2 minutes. Considering UPSC's level of questions in the exam and the number of questions that you are supposed to solve. Third, B option, absolutely correct, very good answer. B is the right option. Beginning to dawn means it is being realized on financial institution that women represent a huge untapped market of potential investor. Now, Mir Pami, you see that here option D, if you look at, and the other trick is left. The other trick I told you, one was the orange and juice, the other one was the reverse approach. So about this reverse approach, I'm going to explain that in reference to passage 3. If you look at option, let's say option C, right? Option C says the banks are trying to be more sensitive to the burgeoning market comprising of female investors and its different needs and aspirations. The banks are trying to be more sensitive. It has only mentioned the banks, right? Whereas the paragraph talks about the financial market. It says any financial institution that ignores women is fundamentally missing the point. So it means it is not merely confined to banks, because the financial market, financial institutions, there are too many. So it has been narrowed down. And if you go for reverse approach, if just imagine that C is the option, C is the summary of a para, and C only mentions the banks, right? On the name of financial institutions, it only mentions the banks. So you will, on the basis of this C option, if you imagine the passage, the paragraph only talks about, or it should only revolve around the banks. However, the author has also mentioned here the financial institutions. He has mentioned about the mutual fund holders, right? And so when you say financial market, it becomes a big word, and bank is only a subset of that. So C loses out. D, financial planning has been a gender issue till date. Now if you choose D as a correct in summary, that financial planning has been a gender issue till date, it means the passage should only talk about this financial planning and gender issue, any more of the historical relevance of this issue. However, the paragraph talks about this new realization, and the words said by Dan Richards and the other gentleman, Peter Wallace, this person, both suggest that there is a new realization. So it is about the new thing rather than the old historical issue. So planning gender issues till date does not become. So reverse approach will give you the clarity. And option B, absolutely correct. Option A, although women now control a large portion of any country's wealth. Now where does it come from, any country's wealth? You know that this is the juice not coming from orange, but something has been added to it. So correct answer for this. And let's go for the last paragraph, last two paragraph. So passage number 4 and then passage number 5. I give you 4 minutes to solve 4 and 5. Now passage 5 on your screen. Fourth must have been done. Alright, so in the given time, 4 minutes, many students have solved it, both passages. And in case of confusion, you are supposed to go for the reverse approach, right? So trick you must apply so that you get a mastery over it. In the exam hall, by the time you reach to that place, you should have already mastered, the tricks, and it must be fresh to you like back of your hands. And there in the exams, in very few instances, you need to apply that. तो ये आपको बार बार करना चाहिए without being asked. So let's go for passage 4. Passage author talks about the words are amalgams of some sound and meaning, and then Noam Chomsky's theory is also mentioned here. So the correct option is C option. Yes, C is the best option, and many students have chosen 4th C. Great. 4th C is the right answer. Other options are either incomplete or a bit irrelevant. So I am not, since all of you have written the correct answer, so I am not going into this, into the discussion, except this student Anish. You got B as an answer, which says linguistic phenomena have their origin in the human mind or brain, which contains the language faculty as one of its components. But you know, it does not talk about the external part. Whereas C part, external part has been mentioned in the paragraph with the weightage. You know, it says we also understand others by interpreting their words, which may involve certain background knowledge. Now look at this part: background knowledge, perspectives, and presuppositions. So Chomsky is well aware that in actual circumstances, language use is guided and affected by many factors, which he thinks are not amenable to scientific studies. But in his view, some general properties of meaning and sound can be identified and explained by internal principles and rules. Only some of this. So unless you consider the external elements as well, you can't get the entire thing. So this paragraph mention both things, and option B in fact does not mention the external part at all. It is only confined to the words and their internal meaning. Meaning and pronunciation of words is just one aspect as the part of the para, which is an internal aspect. But they say that you cannot just go by the meaning and the pronunciation, because these are the two internal and fixed things. However, the outside things, and in the background knowledge, the perspectives and the presuppositions, they also play a crucial role when you are going to evaluate the meaning of a word. How and in what circumstances a person has used a particular word. That also matters apart from the meaning and example. Just a simple example I give you. Suppose your two friends are fighting and one of them is shouting as help. You know, it's a friendly fight and you do not pay attention, so the word help has no impact on you. Whereas when you are walking aside, on road, and then you heard a baby crying, a kid shouting help, and you see that he's in a pool, so you are desperate to get him out, because the very same word help has a different is in a different context. And there in the friends fight, so the context and the background and this part, that matters and gives the meaning to a word. That's what it was talking about. Lesson number 5, many people view drug abuse and addiction. So here in the first half of the paragraph, the author talks about that what is the perspective of the society on the drug addicts. They believe, the society believe that if the drug addicts wants to discard this habit of taking drugs, अगर ये आदत उनको छोड़नी है तो छोड़ सकते हैं, but they are not willing to discard it. That's what the society believes. Then author mentions here that what is the research finding. So there is a transition from this point. Recent research provides a strong evidence that not only do drugs interfere with normal brain functioning by creating powerful feelings of pleasure, but they also have long-term effects on brain metabolism and activity. So it says addiction does begin with drug abuse, but addiction is not just a lot of drug use. So finding of the research suggests at some point changes occur in the brain that can turn drug abuse into addiction. Those addicted to drugs suffer from a compulsive craving and need treatment to end the compulsive behavior. They need treatment. It goes beyond their power to discard, as the society believes. So author has mentioned that there is a myth, and this myth has been mentioned. So both elements should get a place in the paragraph, and the correct answer for fifth one is option A. Some students have missed this because I see B and D have also been chosen. Let's go to one by one. So the passage structure is clear at the very beginning. Here we are going a bit slow because we are doing this, simple things, structural related things. And so what many people view drug abuse and addiction? That is given in the first part. Then author says these myths are damaging for individuals. The word is used as myths. It means the society's belief is a myth, not a fact. And then in his support, author mentioned the finding of the research. Option A is mentioning both elements. Drug addiction, contrary to popular belief, is not a result of willful inclination towards violation of accepted norms or insufficiency of morality, but a consequence of physiological change in the addict's metabolic functioning. It is because of that. If you go for B option, it says myths regarding drug abuse are affecting the lives of all those who are related to drug-related problems. Yes, that is correct, but one element is missing from this point, option B. The myths regarding drug abuse are affecting the lives of all those who are related to drug-related problems. However, it does not mention the finding of the research. So this option, this is not giving you the complete picture of the paragraph. The summary should contain the main point of the para. And here, half of the main point is covered, the myths part. However, the society's treatment is not mentioned. What is the society's view? I'm sorry, the research finding. The research finding is missing from there. Whereas C option talks about the research finding, but it does not mention the society's perspective. That metabolic act has a direct bearing on emotional response. It does not mention that. So B and C, they are not correct because they are incomplete. D option is not as good as A D says, although addiction begins with a drug abuse, which may stem from social problems. Now, this social problem has not been given in the paragraph, that the drug abuse is stem from social problem. Hence, option D is have has some addition. आप कह सकते हैं कि this is the juice that is not originally coming from orange. So something has been done, some adulteration you notice here, right? कुछ मिलावट कर दिया इसमें. A is the best option. So folks, we are these summary questions we have done. So with each questions we are trying to cementize the learning of main idea. Now in this series, one more tool want to discuss with you. These 4 or 5 I've already done, and another BRS tool that each aspirant must be aware of and must pay attention to is called tone, right? Tone and tenor. Now what is the tone? Everybody is aware that when an author writes on a topic, so the general attitude that he develops towards the topic that we identify is called tone. So this general attitude on the topic is the tone. Okay. We see that as per the author's attitude on the topic, we can say that the author's tone is criticizing, maybe appreciating, maybe just mocking something funny, or maybe, you know, authoritative, maybe objective. Objective means that just based on facts and data. So the tone, just like attitude, what is one's feeling? Everybody should know attitude. Attitude is your opinion or your liking or disliking, or whatever you think of a particular thing is called your outlook is called your attitude. So tenor is the intensity of that thinking, of that liking, of that feeling or attitude. So that intensity is called tenor. Suppose an author writes, and through his writing you get to know that he is let's say that he has written an article in the newspaper, and there he seems a bit upset. You know, his tone is a bit you know, upset or displeased over some occurrence, some incidents. Now another author has written, but his tone is not merely so mild as being called as upset or annoyed on something, rather he is in rage or he is furious. So these words suggest that the tenor, the intensity is higher, though the feeling is same. The feeling is anger. So anger, the milder feeling is that you get upset, you are displeased, you are annoyed. The intense, more intense feelings are that you become enraged, or you are simply boiling with anger, you are simply, you know, you're furious or something. Similarly, if you feel happy or you feel you have positive you know, you appreciating kind of approach towards some topic, then your milder version, your milder tone is, tenor is that you are appreciating, you are pleased with something. Whereas the greater version would be that you are simply ecstatic about something, you are being reverential, you are almost worshipping something. So, or just going just, you know, you are laudatory about something. Laudatory tone will be like going just gaga over something, बहुत ज़्यादा लट्टू हो जाना, जैसे किसी चीज़ को हिंदी में कहते हैं, जैसे that is in English that to go gaga over something. So you are laudatory tone. So if you mock something, mocking tone or you know, jeering tone kind of thing will be humorous, you know. However, it will be ridiculing kind of, any negativity is there. Though you are using jokes and all that, but they are used with a certain purpose. Maybe the underlying current is that you want to settle down a score with somebody, you want to demean someone, belittle someone. So you go for mocking, you go for ridiculing. However, your path is, your style is to go by, you know, to write it in a funny manner. But if you go for humorous or funny or tickling kind of tone, it means you want to make your readers you know, laugh on something or something, and then it is not done with any negative connotation. So the tones or the feelings or attitude, as you all know, that the whole repertoire of feelings and emotions, the whole range of attitude and feelings and emotions you must understand. तो जैसे ये tone and tenor में होता है, how it is important for your CSAT RC, you must know that as well. So first of all, is there any direct question asked in CSAT paper that to identify the tone of the passage? I would tell you that in the history of CSAT, not a single question has been asked of this nature to identify the tone or tenor of the passage. Similarly, not a single question has been asked to identify to suggest a title for the paragraph from the given option. So they have not asked these questions. However, understanding of the tone plays a very important and very significant role, because if you have the idea of the tone, you understand the author's attitude on the topic, and this attitude will help you to evaluate the given option if the question is crux based, right? So evaluation में आपको काफ़ी help मिलेगा. That is the reason I am giving you this exercise of tone. I suppose it is clear to everyone. So here, to start with, simple statements are written and you are supposed to identify the tone. So I don't want to waste the precious time of the class. I know that each of you will get the correct answers quickly. So I'm giving you, let's just have a look at the first case. The context is mentioned. A teenager neighbor was arrested for theft and his friends reacted in various ways. Identify the correct tone from the options, right? So you should not take 2 minutes for each, rather in 2 minutes you should be able to solve all the 5 statements. So go for the 5 statements. Write down the answer for all 5. You can write as 1A, 2B, like kind of, and then alright. So since 2 students have written the answer, I will just go through quickly because we cannot give more time to this exercise. It's too pedestrian for you. He has been arrested. I am afraid he's headed downhill. This is not the first time it gets worse. I am worried about him. Okay, so it must be fearful. Right? There's no anger, there's no sarcasm, and there's no surprise. Second, great soon he will be able to steal his mom's goat. Oh, there is a sarcastic, that's a sarcastic tone. Sarcasm, you know, that you have some bitterness and you express it in different styles, sometimes explicitly and at times implicitly, any openly, directly, or sometimes, in an inbuilt sense, not openly, but in a implied manner, in an indirect way, right? And most of us, I mean that most of Indians, we are very good at sarcasm, catching sarcasm. Because of this closed society, we know this. Third one says, damn that boy. It must be angry. Third one is angry because the expression is, the interjunction is damn. Fourth is he has never been arrested. Maybe God willing, this will teach him his lesson. This is hopeful, right? Another word, folks, we have for hopeful, commonly used in tones, is optimistic, and hopeless, pessimistic. Last one, I showed him just how to do it. He believed it. He could have got away with it if he had just listened to me. This is disappointed tone, right? Not depressed. Now look at depressed. Depressed is more intense. The tenor you identify here, it is momentary, not so in depth. So I think that almost all of you have got it correct. First B, second right. So dear, the answers are there on your screen and you can cross check. Huh? I suppose there will be no doubts. No doubts as such, and let's go to the last case of this. The context is mentioned. A certain cricket team won a tournament for the first time in many years. People reacted differently. Identify the appropriate tone. So from their expressions, identify the tone. When you write the answer this time, just mention case 2, because again the 5 statements are there. So case 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as an answer. So again you are supposed to do it at just express speed and alright, so Bidisha is the first person. Bidisha, I think you have given the answer for the previous one. Will be 2D. Yeah, this is now. Unfortunately, there is no name. So just the first one, the expression, you look at the interjunction wow, and the word wow is used for a pleasant surprise, right? And a pleasant surprise is, this element is present in amazement as well as in excitement. So the rest part says, the speaker says, I can't believe it. This is the best thing that could have happened. He says the best thing that could have happened. So it is more of excitement than amazement. Let me tell you the common point between excitement and amazement. Everybody knows that the pleasant feeling is intact in both. That's a common thing, pleasantness. Second, the difference is that with the outcome, you can identify it as an excitement when with the outcome of the incident, the person's association, the speaker's association seems to be more intense. So in excitement, your association with that happening, with that occurrence will be more intense in comparison to amazement. Since this speaker has said that this is the best thing that could have happened, it means it should be excited. To him, this is the best thing. Amazed loses out. However, amazed, many of students must have jumped to because of this word, this interjunction, wow. But wow is not just exclusively and only used for this amazement. It can also be used for excitement. Okay. So the first one, the better option is B option. And just to drive home the point, I will take you to point number 4, sentence number 4. Here author says again, what? They won? Look at the sign of exclamation, surprise. And they started off so poorly this season, I just can't believe it. This is amazement, not excitement. Because here, with this occurrence, with this incident of winning this tournament, the speaker's association is not as intense and strong as it was in the first case. So the fourth one is amazement, amazed, and the first is excited. Second sentence, he says, this is like when I was a boy, it makes my chest swell with pride again and brings tears to my eyes. Okay, of course, sentimental. And the third statement is serious. Another word we use for serious is a formal tone. Sometimes author speaks in a formal tone or serious tone, right? And the last sentence. It could not have been skills since they don't have. This is sarcastic. Because the team is not being credited for their, no credit is being given to them for their win. Rather, in a bitter manner, they are being demeaned here. And so laudatory is, you all know, laudatory means that when you praise something too much. So too much praise means to laud, and laudatory is the adjective of that. So these are the 5 statements. So now coming to the point that the question of tone though have not been asked in the CSAT paper yet, and however it plays an important role in evaluating the options. As and when we go to the PYQs, the practice CSAT questions practice sheet, you will realize that yes, when you identify the author, at times evaluation of the options become easier. Now, having discussed that about both things, writing style and the tone, I must tell you another fact, that in writing style and about the tone, that both of them, you cannot just have one type of tone throughout the passage or one type of writing style throughout the passage or article. There may be different shades available. For example, if the author has by and large written in a persuasive style, however, in one of the paragraph you may come across that he has adopted a descriptive style. Maybe in some parts he has gone into a kind of narration. So, but overall the principal writing style is persuasive, where author is having this, argumentative approach towards the topic. He uses the logic and the reason to establish a point. Same goes with the tone, that author may have a principal tone overall in the article or passage, but the different types of tones you may come across in different parts of the passage. Right? So writing style and the tone, it's not a rule that from the beginning till the end the author will follow only one type of style or only one type of tone. Right? It depends on what he talks about. So that there could be a change of attitude, there could be a different shades of tones, and you should know these basic things. Right? About the tone, though UPSC has not asked any question, however, if they ask any question, it will be in one-worded option. So I will share a material with you that you can only read, and those where the details of such tones and especially such adjectives are mentioned. These adjectives or the knowledge of these adjectives will be helpful for you. It not only for this CSAT part but also for your interview, because if you know those words for feelings and emotions, then and knowing their meaning, understanding their meaning will be related to your personality traits, or commonly these words are used in description of various personalities in the paper of ethics, also in case studies during your interview. So I will share that PDF with you, right, once I have discussed some of the logical questions. I'll share that material. All right, folks. So we are done with this first practice sheet of basic reading skill. After this basic reading skill, you all are supposed to solve the first test. The first test where all the same learning, that I have discussed all along. For example, the writing style. The other day I discussed and I gave you passage number 2 to passage number 8 to identify the correct writing style. Same way, I think a couple of passages I discussed with you, and so this entire sheet is your test 1. Tell me how many of you have done this test. I asked you in the first class, that test 1 will be based on your BRS as per our scheme of things, as the schedule when I showed you. This is that in the class 1 and 2 BRS will be discussed, various tools will be discussed, and there will be a test 1 based on that. So I asked you to attempt the test 1, though I did not not in a very strict sense, but I just wanted you to have to understand some of the basic points here in the test 1. So in case all of you have not done test 1, I'm now going to, because from now on we will have this class on regular basis up I think till 21st. So you are supposed to solve test 1 today, the remaining part. The test 1 today, the test 1 does not require any intervention of mine, because all the things that we have discussed in the classroom till now will be asked here. For example, the writing style. So just revise your writing style from the notes and then identify the correct writing style. The second passage, similarly, second question asks you about the structure of the passage. right? So the structural questions like topic, sentence, or very good Aditya, you have done this test. Passage 2 again based on the structure of the passage. Passage 3 again structure of the passage. Structure means that which sentence is the topic sentence, where is the transition, what are the structure of the passage, is it cause and effect, and there is other details also. Then passage number 5 is slightly different because it asks you about logical inferential analysis of the text. And it is not based on those basic structure, rather it is based on the logical side of this passage. So this part of the test 1, I want to discuss, no, I will discuss tomorrow. Yes, I'll discuss tomorrow. You all are supposed to go through this. So is that clear? So up to passage number 4, you have the questions based on structure. From passage number 5, you have the logical and inferential analysis based statements, and then you have the tone and tenor based questions. Tone and tenor based question, as I told you earlier also, that tone and tenor means you have to look at the author's attitude. Author's attitude. So passage number 1, and then there is passage number 2, 3 authors, what is their tone, what is their attitude. Then based on tone and tenor, there is an exercise given as para completion. Para completion means this paragraph, a paragraph given, and you have to choose the most appropriate last sentence for this paragraph from the given options. So A, B, C, D have the last sentences. You need to pick up the one that is the most appropriate one. How to cross check and how to evaluate the appropriateness of the last sentence? You know the basic rule of writing. Just based on those 2 rules, I think you can identify the last sentence. So rule number 1 is, so I give you just the tips here, and tomorrow I expect that your answer should be correct. The writing rule number 1 is that in the very last sentence, we generally don't start a new dimension of the topic, any a new discussion. Again, an argument is not initiated or not started in the last sentence. So the very last sentence of the paragraph will be of course related to the paragraph, but it will be giving it a kind of closing to the paragraph rather than starting a new topic. So rule number 1 you will remember, and then any such state option that initiates a new topic will have the bleak chances, right? So one rule. Rule number 2 of the writing, again you can apply. I am not writing the detail because you all know this writing rule. That's a very basic thing. And this writing rule you know, so you can apply it here. Rule number 2 of writing, that the given last sentence, this given last sentence and the sentence that you are going to choose from the option, they both must have the logical connectedness that we call as coherence. There should be a coherence and cohesion between the second last sentence, the given one as last, and the last sentence that you are going to choose from the given option. So they must have this direct connectivity. On this basis, again, you can find out the last option, the most suitable option. If you find that your chosen option and the given option actually is not does not have that much of compatibility, they do not closely entwined in terms of the logic and connectedness, you should look for the other options. So I hope it's clear to you. It's a very interesting exercise. However, CSAT, they have never asked any last sentence, any para completion type of question, but I chose it for you just to hone your skill of understanding the basic reading skill. So passage 1, para 2 and 3 you are supposed to solve. Okay. After that, in the same sheet you will come across the question, CSAT question based on main idea of the passage. This part I am going to ask you to solve in the classroom. All the students who are listening to me at this time, they all must solve these 5 passages. They have been taken from the CSAT paper, and the main idea based question they all are asking you what is the crucial message, what does the author argue for, it means that what is the topic of the passage. And since this is the time when you can apply the tricks of orange and juice or the reverse approach. So these 5 paragraphs from the CSAT paper, they must be solved. And for this, I am going to assign you the time limit. Of course, that will be 2 minutes per para. The maximum 10 minutes you have for these 5 small paragraphs. Okay, this part of the test you are going to do right away, right now, whereas the remaining part of the test you are supposed to solve today at home. I hope I'm clear. Now, Aditya and Sumana, both of you have done this test, completed this test, wonderful. So I want you to again, in case you have done all these 5 passages, just cross-check your answers by applying the tricks that I've shared with you. Okay, so starting with passage number 1, we live in digital times. The digital is not something we use strategically. The question is that what is the essential message? What is the crux part of this passage? What the author wants to convey. So it is 12:23 by my watch, maximum time 10 minutes. So by 12:33 p.m. you should all be ready with the answers, right? I'll see that how many of you get, and I think minimum you should get 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. Okay, since it is the beginning, I can accept that much of accuracy as well. So 3 out of 5 is the minimum, meaning that is the passing score. In case somebody has got 2 or 1, then person has dipped in and must address the issue. So you can discuss it with me. So starting from passage number 1, your time starts now. I will keep mum in meanwhile, and in case you have got any doubt, you can write it to me. These are the options for passage number 1. If you solely rely on the screen, then obviously different people have different speed of reading, and I won't be able to then scroll down and up as per your speed. I don't know. So that's the reason I suggest you that you should open it at your end and then approach the questions. So passage 1 about the digital times, the options are here. So there is a student who has solved it in 5 minutes. 5 passages, 5 minutes. Great. Another one there. All right. By the way, small paragraphs they are, and then 5 minutes, it means 1 minute per passage is very good. It's a pretty good speed. All the students, especially those who believe they are a little bit slow, they must pace up. I would suggest that go for the hard copy rather. Take the printout, go for the hard copy, and use a pen when you are reading. For the slow students who are a bit slow reader, they can actually push up, and use of pen will and the hard copy will actually bring a kind of urgency, sense of urgency in your reading. Passage 3 on your screen. Again the critical message. The message of the author is being asked, so message is always the important point. It will include the main point. Pami, you have given the answer of the second passage now. So you are, I think, a bit dragging. थोड़ा पुश करना पड़ेगा आपको. Now passage 4 on your screen. And the last paragraph, passage number 5. All right, time up. And in 10 minutes, actually each of you was supposed to have completed all the 5 paragraphs. So let me first give you the answers, and afterwards you will tell me your score, and then we will address the doubts. Okay, so starting from passage number 1, digital times, the correct option for passage 1 is option B for Bombay. Speaking of digital technologies is speaking of our life and living. The first one, B, as an answer. Second paragraph, why B, why not any other option will be addressed afterwards. First B, second, why do people prefer open defecation and not want toilets? Again, the correct answer, the crucial message is again B for Bombay. For passage 2, B, Bombay. Passage 1, B, Bombay. Passage 2 also B, Bombay. Passage 3, again it asks about the critical message. The answer should be B for Bombay. Diets based on grains, fruits and vegetables are best suited for health in developing countries. Then one resolves around. Just hang on. Hang on. For passage number 3, uh, it should be option A. Option A. Our increasing demand for foods sourced from animals puts a greater burden on our natural resources. B says diets based on grains, fruits and vegetables are best suited for health in developing countries. So the paragraph talks about more environmental factors. That's the reason B is not the correct answer. It should be option A. Passage 3A and passage 1B, so B and B and option A. So we have the answers as passage 1B, passage 2B, passage 3 option A. Now passage 4, this is written in that dated, old English style. However, the point is very clear, right? And the correct answer should be B for Bombay. So B, Bombay is again the right answer. Rule according to the consent of the governed. Consent means the approval, the agreement. So passage number 4, B. And the last passage talks about habits, and the correct answer is option C. Passage 5, option C. Now, quickly write down your score. How many of you got all correct? 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, or 3 out of 5? Your score should not be less than 3. So I'm waiting for your score. What? It seems that there is no 5 out of 5. So I'm waiting for your score. I want to see that how many students got all correct, or 4 correct, or 3 correct. I know this system takes time. This mode of communication takes time. But it seems to be too long. So should I infer that nobody has cleared? Is there anyone 2 out of 5 or 1 out of 5? But no, I know that there are some very bright students there, out there. So some of you must have scored all correct or 4 out of 5 correct. You have written your answers, but if I have to go and to just cross check each one's answer will take time. I see Mijanur has got all correct. Yes. So since some of the names are not there, so it will be difficult for me to count this way. Priya Smita, you have not answered for the 4th para. Though 1, 2, 3, 5 you got correct. Don't know whether you attempted 4th one or not. However, now I'm going to just discuss your doubts. You see, in the first para, this para talks about the digital times, right? And the other details of the digital time, that digital is everywhere and like air, it's like air, invisible, we live with a digital system and all that. However, when you evaluate the options, option A says all problems of governance can be solved by using digital technology. We don't get it from the para, that all problems. Similarly, option C says our creativity and imagination cannot be expressed without digital media. You know, digital media helps you to actually spread your, in dissemination, in spread, it helps you to spread it across the world, your creativity and your imagination. However, this expression that creativity and imagination cannot be expressed without digital media is incorrect and not given in the para. It's an extreme notion in itself. The last option, use of digital system, is imperative. Imperative means must, essential for the existence of mankind. Now the existence, like survival will not be there without digital. No, it is incorrect, again an exaggeration. Hence D is also incorrect. The correct answer is B. Speaking of digital technologies is speaking of our life and living, because it expands, its omnipresence everywhere and affecting all. A, C and D. Some students chose option D, but these options are in a way extreme notions and they are over the top and not supported by the passage. So the message of the passage should be present always in the passage itself. It should not go beyond the passage. Passage number 2 we come to. Passage number 2, of course here the answer should be B for Bombay, and very clearly this message is given in the passage. Why do people prefer open defecation, not want toilets? He asked the question and then he mentioned the finding of the recent research. Has two critical elements. Number one, ideas of purity and pollution, and not wanting pits or septic tanks to fill because they have to be emptied. This is one reason. These are the issues that nobody wants to talk about. But if we want to eradicate, the practice of open defecation, they have to be confronted and dealt properly. So author's main point is that these misconception of must be dealt and confronted properly. So his message is clearly depicted in B option. People have to perceive toilet use and pit emptying as a clean and not polluting, where the perception is wrong. They are mistaken. Option A, the ideas of purity and pollution are so deep-rooted that they cannot be removed. If they cannot be removed, then why author is saying that it should be confronted and dealt properly? See, people cannot change their old habits, not connected to the passage that they can't change. So this is again not correct answer. And people have neither civic sense nor sense of privacy. It has generalized the issue, right? Because the author's point is that it should be dealt with. Next passage, and this passage was a good one, and here author says that as we look to 2050, when we will need to feed 2 billion more people, the question of which diet is best has taken on new urgency, right? So here the problem has been introduced. The issue that author is talking about is given in the first sentence. Then he says the foods we choose to eat in the coming decades will have dramatic ramifications for the planet. Ramifications means impacts, effects. Generally the serious ones. Simply put, a diet that revolves around meat and the dairy way of eating that is on the rise throughout the developing world will take a greater toll on the world's resources than one that revolves around unrefined grains, nuts, fruit and vegetables. So such diet will have a greater toll on the world's resources. So he's talking about the world's resources. That is the reason B option is dismissed, because it is only talking about the health factor. Author is concerned about the resources, any the environmental factors. So B loses out. Option D is not correct, because it says from a global perspective we still do not know which type of diet is best for us. This is only confined to the problem, but the author has given the solution. And he says that such a diet that revolves around meat and dairy product will have more serious ramifications. So we must switch over to these diets, grains and nuts and fruits based. So author has given the solution part. And if you remember, I told you that if the author gives the solution along with the problem, then solution is more important than the problem. And hence in the main idea based question, the solution should be present in the correct option. I suppose this point is clear to everyone. If author mentions the issue, the problem and the solution, then solution is more important and it should It should be present in the correct option. So as an answer to a crux based question for such passages where both problem and solution are given, no such option should be chosen that does not mention the solution part. So dear, option D is wrong. Option C, human beings change their food habits from time to time, irrespective of the health concerns. Now, this time to time they change, it is not the main point. It does not convey the main point because the author has suggested that what kind of diet they should go for. So, the basic purpose of the paragraph does not seem to be option C, rather it is option A. Our increasing demand for food sourced from animals puts a greater burden on our natural resources, as given there in reproducts and all. Now, the passage number 4 is easy, and here author has mentioned, I think, the even the poor person, the resourceless person, has a life to live as the greatest he, as a mighty one in the society. And therefore, truly, I think it's clear that every man that is to live under a government ought first to, by his own consent means agreement, approval, to put himself under the government. So he wants to say that a poor man has as much right that his voice must be heard or his consent, his approval must be considered as a resourceful person's approval. So, and I do think that the poorest man in England is not at all bound in a strict sense to that government, that he has not had a voice to put himself under. So, it should be rule according to the consent, means agreement of the poor. Now, author does not highlights here, the argument is not for the rule of the poor. Rather, the consent or approval of the poor should also be included. A option, distribution of wealth equally to all. This is a good point, but it is not mentioned in the passage, that it doesn't talk about the equality. It just talks about equality in a certain context, that is approval by even a resourceless person to the government that he is going to put himself under too. D option is totally far-fetched, expropriation of the rich. You know, to expropriate means when the government takes the property of a rich person and makes it available for the public use, that is called to expropriate. So expropriation of the rich has not been discussed. So do remember, the author is not here actually tilting it one way. Rather, it's a balanced one. He just says that the poor person also has a right and his approval should also be considered. It's not against the rich. So keep in mind. So all such options should be dismissed. Last passage, it talks about habits. We have to just see that which option has been mentioned in the passage. So after telling you the importance of habits, the significance of habits, that what role they play, author says, take away our habits and the residuum would hardly be worth bothering. We could not get on without them. They simplify the mechanism of life. Habits simplify the mechanism of life, and then the explanation is given here in the last 2 lines. They enable us to do a multitude of things automatically. They simplify mechanism. If we had to give fresh and original thought to them each time, would make existence an impossible confusion. So the last 2 sentences tells you that how they simplify the mechanism of life. You remember, this is the topic sentence. A topic sentence, yeah, an idea that has been further propagated in the paragraph, expanded in the paragraph, will be the more important idea. So tend to make our lives difficult? Not at all, just opposite. Make it easier for us to live? Yes. D, add precision to our lives? This accuracy has not been mentioned. Tend to mechanize our lives? Just opposite. Only C is the right answer. So this is the explanation of all the 5 questions. Now, so this test, only the last part, CSAT based main idea based questions I have discussed with you. Remaining questions are for you, for this test you are supposed to solve at home. Now, the question is now from here, which way we'll be heading to. So as I have told you that the crux based questions by and large we have discussed in the BRS sheet, basic reading skill sheets, and you will come across these questions later on in the form of test also. Logical question is for score and to clear this exam of CSAT, logical questions you must practice on. upon, and they are the most confusable ones unless you know the nitty-gritty and the details, So I will first work on your insight to understand what a logical question look like and what kind of passages you may expect. Uh, However, one sheet based on statements I shared with you on the other day, and there you attempted some of the 4 or 5 questions where I showed you that the kind of tricks played by the examiner is actually is something to be taken care of. And so this is the challenge you will face in the logical question, that how to overcome the options. So in fact, this trap of options will become very prominent. They will play a prominent role in the logical questions. So the all type of logical questions that we will be discussing and dealing with is given here: conclusion, assumption, inference, first of all, and then corollary, implication. So, but about each type of questions of logical question, first thing you must know is that there should be a proper approach. So since between now and the lunch we have only 4 or 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to dictate about your approach, because a more disciplined approach, a systematic approach will actually take you to your goal. It has been no doubt in logical questions you need certain level of intelligence and the knowledge of the language. They both play a crucial role. However, your intelligence gets bettered if you have a disciplined and a systematic approach. So being methodical is the key, and that is the reason I dictate those sequences, those points. In order of them, you will actually proceed to solve these questions. So just 4 or 5 points I'm going to dictate, because just 5 minutes are left. So these points are related to your approach. So logical questions, and the approach. The very first point, whenever you have the logical question, generally you will have one para, a small para based one question. Rarely there are 2 questions, but not more than that. So there will be one question based on one para. This is the common combination you come across. This is the ratio. So in this case, and of course the options are also written there, A, B, C, D options. So what should you do first? Whether should you read the question first, or the para first, or the options first? One should know about this. So I always suggest and want you to follow this, that you should read the question first. Why you read the question first? Because from the question, it is the question that sets your objective. You get to know that, okay, what to be done, and this comes from the question itself. So if you know about the question, your further journey will be easier. So you know that what you are going to look forward to in the paragraph. So always read the question first, and then second point, from the question you know that what kind of information you are supposed to extract out from the para. If you do not read the question, you just read the para, then you are reading the para without any objective, without any set goal. So second point should be that you should read the para. However, your reading of the para should be to identify its logical structure. You are supposed to identify its structure, right? Structure will be the important part. Third point is that if possible, you should anticipate your answer. Anticipate means you develop the shadow of the correct answer, but if possible it is. Like in all type of questions, it is not possible anticipation is not possible. So wherever it is possible, you must do that. In due course of time, you will get to know that actually in the argument based questions, in the assumption questions, it is possible to anticipate the answers. And fourth is point will be, then you should go approach the options. And in the options, you are supposed to apply, evaluation and elimination method. Right. So these are the 4 points. Now I will discuss the other 3 points in the next class. Okay. And you all are supposed to solve in the next class. I mean that post lunch we'll discuss the other 3 points, and test 1 is supposed to be done. So see you post lunch, and then we will start the logical questions in today's class. Thank you.